Good evening, good evening. Here we are again. It is Monday, March 18th, and we're all here for ACIM Talks with Reverend Jim. And as usual, I'm excited to get into anything A Course in Miracles or A Course in Miracles related. I think that it as incredible as it sounds, is a very truthful and plausible explanation for our existence here. So, how's everybody doing? You doing okay navigating through the dream this week?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything anyone wants to share with the group here before we get into our agenda?
No, anything.
All right. Well, first up is a video that I brought in from YouTube. It's produced by a group called Next Level Soul. Have y'all ever heard of them or
No.
watched any of their productions?
Mm-mm.
They do oh my goodness, I can't see anybody here. Hold on. Let me do something different here. All right. Let's see how now. Let me try it again. But maybe before I do that, Next Level Soul does podcasts with spiritual people and channelers and
Cool.
all kinds of things like that. And they do it at a high level. And I watch a number of their videos. So tonight I brought in a video. Oh my goodness, I still can't see you guys. You can see my screen.
We can see you.
Yes.
Have you heard of Emily Bennington?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, as usual, I just brought in a short biography because I'd like to watch about 10 minutes of a video she did on A Course in Miracles, and she did it on the Next Level Soul podcast. So I'll just read this brief bio for Emily Bennington Perry. Emily Bennington Perry is the executive director of the Circle of Atonement, where she is responsible for all aspects of advancing the mission. Her dedication to A Course in Miracles comes from the extraordinary changes in her own life as a result of applying its teachings. Prior to joining the circle, Emily led training programs on spiritual intelligence and mindful leadership for numerous Fortune 500 companies. She's also the author of 3 books, Miracles at Work, Turning Inner Guidance into Outer Influence, which features a foreword by her friend Marianne Williamson. And first of all, you have any questions about that at all?
She's also the wife of Robert Perry.
Well, that's where I was going next.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were done. Sorry.
It's not, I only knew her as Emily Bennington. And now I see the word Perry, which led me to believe that she got married to the guy, right? To Robert Perry. Do you know, is this a recent marriage or? I'm just behind the times as usual.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess about a year, but
Okay.
I'm bad at times.
All right. So that's fairly recent. But yeah, and Emily was a mindfulness consultant, and as it said, worked for numerous Fortune 500 companies. And when the course first came to her, and Spirit started telling her to get involved with it, she wanted to do the course, but call it mindfulness, so she could fit it in, right, to her current occupation.
Mhm.
But apparently Spirit was having none of it. And so she finally agreed to do the course in and of itself. So this interview goes on for well over like an hour. But I just brought in our usual snippet, the time that we have available. So I started about 20 minutes or so into the interview, and I'd like to just pick up there and see what you guys
from
think.
1965 to 1972.
Yes.
And it was published in 1976 originally. And when I say it was scribed by Helen, but channeled, the author of A Course in Miracles claims to be Jesus. And I know that many students find that to be outrageous and so
Blasphemy.
often like
Blasphemy.
unbelievable.
Sure.
But at the same time, we've had so many students just like me who have picked up this book, opened it, read a couple pages, and recognized, oh, this is the Jesus that I know and love. This isn't the Jesus on the cross. This isn't the Jesus who's judgmental or vengeful or someone to be afraid of. This is the Jesus who just very kindly and gently wants to guide us home through true perception of each other back to God.
Now, there's a very famous yogi, Paramahansa Yogananda, who's a very big fan of Jesus, and said that Jesus may have been crucified in one day, but his teachings have been crucified for thousands of years.
Yeah, I know. That's true. And Gandhi said, "Oh, Christians, you are so unlike your Christ."
Right. It's like the Crusades. I'm gonna kill you because you don't believe in Jesus. Like it's like what?
Yeah.
This the little disconnect. Am I the only one that sees this?
I know. Jesus came in. We strongly believe Jesus came in originally with a beautiful vision of an unconditionally loving God that was meant to counter this view of God as vengeful and wrathful. And so the radical nature of Jesus, that he came in with this new vision of God, and he got killed for it. And the message never took off. It's 2,000 years later, and there are threads of Jesus's message of unconditional love that have gone through time. I really believe that Tolstoy got it, Gandhi got it, Martin Luther King got it, St. Francis got the true nature of love, the message that Jesus came to give us. But in general, it's been very misunderstood and misinterpreted. And the course, we believe, is a correction for that.
Now, why do you think his teachings have been so massacred over the years? I mean, it's just like like we were just joking about, it's a disconnect from his original ideas of love and a loving God, a divine God. I always found it really interesting. I'm like, how can a God be vengeful? Like, I mean, that means it's pure ego. Like, you mean our God is so egocentric that if you don't worship me in the way that I say, I'm going to be vengeful towards you? Like, that makes no sense, even on a logical standpoint. It just makes no sense.
Well, it does make sense if if you realize, like, it's really hard to forgive unconditionally,
Oh,
right?
mhm.
When we feel like someone, you mentioned trauma, when we feel that we have been deeply hurt and traumatized by someone, typically what comes to mind first, and the feeling and the emotion that we sit with, is how hurt we are and how much we want to get back at the person who hurt us. And so that there's something like in our ego core nature, the Course calls it ancient hate. We come into these bodies with this certain amount of ancient hate. And so what better way to sanction your hate and to get approval of your hate towards someone else than to have a God that is also wrathful? And so if God is wrathful, and if God is saying, these are the in group and this is the out group, then it sanctions our desire to do the same. So then we get to say, you're in, you're out, and I'm going to enact revenge on you, and it's okay because God's doing it too. It's a lot harder to in the face of an attack, and no one faced more attack than Jesus, right? I mean, he was crucified in the most horrific, brutal way. And even in the face of that, he displayed unconditional love. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. And so we find that message beautiful. And at the same time, we find it very difficult to enact in our own lives in the ways in which we're, crucified in little ways every day, like someone cuts us off in traffic and we kind of get upset. And so unconditional love is hard. And so if you want to hold on to the grievance and the judgment, give it to God, and he'll sanction that behavior in you as well.
So you mentioned the ego, which is one of my favorite conversations to have about ego, because it's something we all have it. I don't care who you are, even if you're a spiritual master in this lifetime, you still have ego. Some have mastered the ego, most have not. Why do you believe that, or how does the ego, or why does the ego demand almost a separation from others, like it's me versus the world, as opposed to we're all connected, we're all together, and there's always that need to separate, to make themselves look bigger, all this kind of stuff. The ego, like how when you're saying, like, when someone cuts you off, that's an offense to my ego. It shouldn't be, but it's an offense. Like, how dare you cut me off? Don't you know who I am? I always love that. If anyone says that to me, I was like, wow. You're far gone, sir.
Yeah, and this is such a great topic, the ego, because we all have one. I believe that when it comes to the Holy Spirit, we all share the universal spirit of God. It's equal in all of us, no matter who we are or what we've done. But when it comes to the ego, the Course says we make one ego for ourselves. And so that's why certain things that are triggering to me may not be triggering to you, and that kind of thing. And so our ego is unique to us, and we turn the dial up and down on it based on what's going on in our own mind. But the Course, from a Course perspective, the ego is always something to do whatever you can to get rid of. And so the reason why I say that is because in spirituality today, there's so much teaching, and it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's just different than what the Course teaches. The Course teaches that the ego, its core nature is attack. It is never out to help you. And so that whole discussion of, well, I just have to make friends with my ego, I just have to dance with my ego because it's the thing that keeps me safe. From a Course perspective, the ego will never keep you safe, because it's always the thing that wants to separate from other people. It's always that its core nature is attack again. And so it's always going to want to puff you up at the expense of someone else. And that's what makes it so dangerous. And so that, to me, when you think, okay, the Course says the problem, all the problems in our world come down to the ego, and the ego comes down to separation, and separation is I'm above and you're below. And so when you look around at the world and you say, okay, so if every problem, every conflict is caused by the ego, which is separation, above and below, trying to be above, everything, it's like you just put on these glasses and everything makes sense. All of our, the conflict in our home, the conflict in our work, all the way up to war comes down to above and below. And so if we can just eradicate that, and have a spiritual path that says, no, 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 no. The only thing true about you is what God put there. And that's equal in absolutely everyone. So then we start to have a conversation about how we're the same versus how we're different. And that's when we really start to heal our planet.
I mean, that is the beauty of being, I guess, there's a beauty of animal life and nature. If you look at animals, animals don't have ego. You don't see one wolf trying to say I mean, yes, there's territorial things, but that's more, but not like in the way that we do it, that we have to puff ourselves up and make ourselves look so much bigger. I mean, it's kind of like even the ego in the spiritual space, because you see a lot of even, quote unquote spiritual masters are like, I'm so much more spiritual than you. I'm like the most spiritual.
Yeah,
like,
I know. It's like there's ego even in humility. It's like I'm
the
more
humblest.
humble than you.
I am
but
the
it's
humblest.
still...
I'm so much more humble than you are, Emily. I'm so much more humble than you.
Right.
I'm the humblest person you'll ever meet. Like,
and it's still trying to put yourself above through humility.
right.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. That's when you start to see, okay, this is what the ego does. It separates and puts above. Then you start to see it everywhere. And then when you realize, okay, that's the problem, then we can uproot it at its foundation.
So what is the ego body illusion, which I saw inside of the Course of Miracles? Can you kind of dive into that topic a little bit?
Yeah. So as I was saying before, the only thing real, ultimately real, is our core nature as we were created by God. So our pure innocence, our
I'm still working on my technical skills, all right? Just when you think you got it down pat, even at the end of the video, it can come back and haunt us, right? At any rate, I hope you enjoyed that segment. Was there anything she was saying that stood out to you? I know for me, was there a comment? I know for me, right at the beginning of the segment, and they were talking about how incredible it was to even think that this could be Jesus Christ speaking through this woman. And yet it hit home for me because she said, there's so many core students that despite how incredible that sounded, as soon as they started reading some of this, something inside them started going, yeah, I could get with this. This sounds like the Jesus that is meaningful and could make sense to me. So I started reading some more and reading some more of these passages. And again, as incredible as it may seem, it won me over that this really sounded like Jesus Christ coming back 2,000 years and talking to me. I had a little problem with some of the things that were being said when they got on the discussion of the ego. And it reminded me of some of the things we previewed when we looked at the video on a comparison of A Course in Miracles and the Unity or Unity Church movement. And Miss Bennington was describing that the Course says there's no absolute no use for the ego. Some people talk about dancing with the ego, and she said the Course does not teach that the ego has any value to you whatsoever. I'm not so sure of that. I believe that it needs to be managed, but the ego sees differences, and that's helpful to me sometimes in level 2. I mean, there's a difference between walking down the street on the sidewalk and distinguishing the sidewalk from a tree. I mean, it's helpful. It keeps me from walking into trees. It's helpful to be able to, I'm just saying, to me, there are some things that the ego helps me with here in level 2. What do you think about that? What she was saying and my commentary about it.
I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
I think it certainly shows me what my beliefs are, and I certainly needed to navigate in this realm.
In this realm, this realm that is totally operates on differences. So having that perspective here in level 2, even realizing maybe it's not real, it's a dream, but I work here in level 2. For some reason, I have a mission and a purpose here. And being able to observe differences, as unrealistic as it may all be, helps me to navigate and carry out whatever the heck I'm supposed to be doing here. So I say, thank you, ego, for helping me with that. Beyond that, we're kind of, but I have a niche for you. And to me, that's Course talk, because the Course has a purpose for everything. It destroys nothing. It shies away from nothing. It's inclusion, not separation. So that helps me to say the ego's not real. I don't let it manage my life, but I can use it for stuff like walking down the sidewalk without walking into a tree. A tree is different from a sidewalk. And having that understanding keeps me from getting my head and body bumped all the time, because I don't know the difference, or I don't want to know the difference. So I would split off a little from Miss Bennington in that regard. Comments from you? Sherilyn, you're contemplating anything
Yes.
make it all the way out of your throat there?
Yes, I'm contemplating. I'm trying to decide how I might put into words what I was thinking.
Yes.
I think that we can learn from the ego as long as we're aware of it and what it is. And I wonder if it doesn't kind of steer us on the right path when we are aware of it and it takes possession of us or our situations.
Yeah.
It's like I mean, if we didn't have it, none of this would be necessary. The Course in Miracles or any of that, I guess, is kind of what it occurs to me. It's part of our lives, and if we're aware, we should be learning because of it, or instead of, or
I can use it.
yeah.
I can use everything as part of whatever the heck I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. It's a means to an end.
Yeah, thanks, Kathleen. Nothing to do with the end per se,
No.
but it helps me to navigate here in the dream. And to that extent, it's useful to me, and I just kind of disagree with her point of view on that. By the way, Emily Bennington Perry, she's recently, I guess, married Robert Perry. Somebody tell us a little bit about Robert Perry before we close. I know some of you know quite a bit about his organization. I do not.
I don't either.
He's from the Circle of Atonement,
Yeah.
which is what put out the complete and annotated edition of the Course in Miracles, which really is what he did was he put back everything that was channeled to Helen that was left out of the FIP edition. He put it back in after her passing to respect her wishes that she didn't want it while she was alive.
And do you know what his resource was? Where did he get the material that was left out?
It's in the Library for Congress, so it's available to everyone now.
Okay, so it's more of an unedited version. Anybody familiar with the text version of the course?
Yeah, that also has edited has things edited out.
Okay. What about the Hugh Lynn Casey version, which was a manuscript?
Right. They all have things edited out to different degrees. The FIP has the most edited out.
Okay.
What kinds of things are being edited out?
Anything personal, anything Helen considered personal to herself.
Oh, okay.
And just to dig into it, and we'll stop in a minute, what version went to the Library of Congress then?
Her handwritten notes.
Oh, okay.
So that's what he deciphered.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. And boy, am I glad we have an expert here to help us along. Thanks, Steve. I hope you found that short clip of value. And is there anything else you want to say about it or anything? All right. Well, it's good we get to experience these things. After all, we are experienced A Course in Miracles students. So we can very capably handle all of these related things related to A Course in Miracles. So without
And
further
I think she's a good example to not just buy into whatever anybody says about the Course of Miracles. Like her and her husband, Robert Perry, I think there are quite a number of areas that they have different views than Kenneth Wapnick.
yeah.
So, I mean, I think he did a fabulous job of putting the CE edition back together. But
Who did?
just
Uh,
because they're
Perry?
saying they're sharing their opinion doesn't mean that that is the right interpretation of the Course in Miracles.
Yes, ma'am. Right, right. So it's good to get different input, I guess, on the material that we spend so much time with.
Yeah, my training was all with the Kenneth Wapnick
Yeah,
background, so I tend to, it tends to resonate with me more.
yeah. I listen to a lot of Kenneth Wapnick. In my background, he was not my favorite course teacher though, for some reason. I
Oh,
guess,
I found him difficult.
oh, okay.
I
Yeah,
couldn't read his material, but all my teachers had his background,
yeah.
so
And
they taught from that perspective.
yes, and I would venture to say we've kind of got the same background in that respect.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to talk about when it comes to A Course in Miracles. Even after you get out of the basics from our study groups and that, what have you, there's still a lot to consider. Speaking of that, if you're ready, if you have your course books out, we will pick up kind of where we left off in our oracle readings of A Course in Miracles. And the oracle, the Holy Spirit said that out of 31 chapters, we divided the 31 chapters into 5 groups. And out of each group, we talked to each other and selected a particular chapter from each group. In group 1, we selected chapter 3. And when we finish chapter 3, we'll go to our selection in group 2, which was chapter 12. But at the rate we go, there's no need even talking about anything beyond that, because it may take us a while to finish chapter 3.
Yes.
We're starting tonight on page 37. We started chapter 3 and we got to read 3 whole paragraphs. And tonight we're on paragraph 4. But anybody, just to get us in the mood, what has Jesus said so far in section 1, atonement without sacrifice? Well, I guess for me, was there a comment?
I truthfully don't remember.
I don't either.
I like our candor, right? Honesty, teacher of God, you. I think it can be summed up in just a few words what he said so far. If you'll look at paragraph 2, sentence 10, Jesus is saying, listen, okay, forget that stuff. I was not punished because you were bad. That's not it. And remember, before he was talking about how crazy we would have to be to think that he came here to die for our sins, and all he talked about was loving us and being equal to us, and us being equal to him, and we all being equal to the Father. So he's saying you bought a line of crap here. I mean, just think of the mental gymnastics you would have to go through to make it true that I came here because you were bad, and the way that the Father solves the problem is to kill something. Do you really believe God thinks that way? Do you remember that, Clay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have written in the book that Jesus showed we are eternal and cannot die, and is not sacrifice but pure benefit.
Now, what do you mean pure benefit?
I don't know. It must have been something that was said the last time we went through this, because it struck me. But the pure benefit is that you could say love instead of pure benefit.
Yeah, the benefit to me is
That we don't,
I'm eternal.
yeah.
Isn't that nice to know?
Mm-hmm.
So I agree. You probably made those notes a while back, Kathleen.
Oh, the last time we went through this,
Okay.
probably.
Well, that's good enough for me. Let's get our readers together here. Sherilyn is number 1, and Ron is 2, he is 3, Kathleen 4, Joan 5. Okay, I'm number 6 for what it's worth. Okay. 6. So
Okay.
we're off to a good start. I want
All right.
you to know that I was not punished because you were bad.
Right.
So let's pick up from there with Sherilyn White in paragraph 4.
Sacrifice is a notion totally unknown to God. It arises solely from fear, and frightened people can be vicious. Sacrificing in any way is a violation of my injunction that you should be merciful, even as your Father in heaven is merciful. It has been hard for many Christians to realize that this applies to themselves. Good teachers never terrorize their students. To terrorize is to attack, and this results in rejection of what the teacher offers. The result is learning failure.
Thank you. Ron, do paragraph 5 and then we'll talk. How's that?
Okay. I have been correctly referred to as the Lamb of God who taketh away the sins of the world. But those who represent the Lamb as blood-stained do not understand the meaning of the symbol. Correctly understood, it is a very simple symbol that speaks of my innocence. The lion and the lamb lying down together symbolize that strength and innocence are not in conflict, but naturally live in peace. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, is another way of saying the same thing. A pure mind shows the truth, and this is its strength. It does not confuse destruction with innocence because it associates innocence with strength, not with weakness.
Comments? Paragraphs 4 or 5? In paragraph 4,
Yeah.
sentence 5, good teachers never terrorize their students. What do you think he means by that? Because it reminds me of something else we read in the supplements.
Well, I have writing in it and it says love never forces.
Yeah.
Why?
Because we have free will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say love never forces because love is always loving.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense to you?
Does
Yes.
Is it a better fit than the stuff we've been taught?
Of course. Yeah.
All right, like I'm a nice guy. I'm a really pure and loving guy, but don't push me too far or I'll act out of another nature. So if I have another nature that I use, I'm not pure. I'm not pure at heart. Does anyone remember in psychotherapy the supplement we read where it talked about the therapist and the patient and how a good therapist doesn't attack
Right.
his patient, never attacks his patient. And so that would be a metaphor with the therapist patient that we could just carry over here to the teacher student relationship. And do you see why in the course we're using principles that have universal application? They always work no matter what you call the particular relationship, whether it's a therapist patient relationship or a teacher student relationship or a mentor mentee relationship. If what you're trying to teach will be lost if you use attack in your methods,
Yes.
because you're being a fake. You're coming off like I want, oh wait, yeah, but no pain, no gain, right? Who made that up?
The ego.
And so, thank goodness we're getting corrections on some of these wild and crazy ideas. What about when we went into paragraph 5 and Jesus starts talking about innocence being strength, not weakness? Or is that what he's saying here?
Yeah, it is. Definitely.
Why is the lamb such a good symbol of meekness, of innocence?
Well, a lamb generally is thought to be gentle and non-violent,
Yeah.
quiet.
Yeah.
And the lion would be the strength because the lion is a strong, strong beast.
And in the Old Testament of the Bible, they talked about bringing sacrificial gifts. You remember language about sacrifice? And the lamb was always a good sacrificial gift. Did you know that the lamb, you can get ready and chop their head off, and the lamb just doesn't freak out? It just, maybe it's unaware that you're going to chop its head off or whatever, but it's just a very it's not a defensive
No,
type of creature. And so that's why it's an easy symbol for willingness to be sacrificed and used in that way. Had you ever heard that before, that they don't put up resistance even
I
if,
didn't
no,
know that.
I hadn't. But
you
I
know,
would assume they would be putting up much less resistance than many other animals would, beings.
yeah, absolutely. And it's my understanding that they'll just go to the chopping block or whatever without resistance. Check me on that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I did hear that somewhere as to why the lamb was so often used as a sacrifice. Anything else from paragraph 5? I got puzzled. Somebody help me out here. He says in paragraph 5, sentence 3, the lion and the lamb lying down together symbolizes strength and innocence are not in conflict, but naturally live in peace. And then he says, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, is another way of saying the same thing. I'm confused on
Yeah,
that.
it's a little.
I don't quite see the parallel between those two statements.
Well, what it is it's the symbol of strength and innocence. So blessed are the pure of heart. Doesn't matter whether it's strength or innocence, they both have a pure heart. And having a pure heart, they don't see anything but peace.
Because of their pure heart.
Yeah, basically what he's saying is if you realize that you're loved, then you don't see anything other than love. And therefore there can't be anything other than peace.
Okay, I'll have to process that one.
No, the lamb and the lion are the lion and the lamb are lying down together to symbolize that strength and innocence are not in conflict. If they're
I'm
not in
good with that.
conflict,
Go ahead.
if they're not in conflict, then the implication is that they are at peace. They are living, they become the love that we all are.
Now move into the pure.
Okay, and blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. In another is another way of saying the same thing. Pure of heart means brings me right to the pureness of love.
And what we're talking about are things like, he's saying love is strength, not weakness.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But, you know, in the biblical Old Testament times, the Pharisees and Sadducees said that the Savior's coming and they envisioned the Savior coming on this big white horse with the mighty sword of strength to strike down all the enemies and be a conqueror. And then here comes this dude on a donkey. And they had a hard time seeing that as being strong and powerful. I mean, how powerful can you be when you ride a donkey and carry no sword whatsoever?
Well, he was strong in his conviction. His strength was his conviction in knowing who he was and demonstrating a Christ-like life.
And knowing that that purity was eternal,
Mm-hmm.
and that strength, that purity was invulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't need a sword because of what I am.
Indestructible.
Yeah, eternal, indestructible. So what defenses do I need?
None.
None.
So to me, that goes along with the statement here about the incredible strength of just being what we are. The problem is we don't know what we are. But I so appreciate A Course in Miracles, because whether I want to believe it or not, it gets out there and tells me the answer to the question of our whole species. What am I, right?
Yes.
At least it's forthright. Maybe it's wrong, but at least it comes out and tells us in no uncertain terms the answer to this worldwide question: what am I? And what does the Course say I am?
Love.
I can't see that as being something physical. A body can't be love, can it?
I don't know why not. You're in the body and you're,
What? Wait. You said you're in the body. So you're talking about something that is not the body, but is in the body.
well, because you're here as a human being, and at least your shell is that.
Ah, my shell, it's hard for me to see how I'm made of flesh and blood.
Mhm.
My body's not made out of love. That's hard for me to see. That's more on the
Well, but you're,
spiritual realm.
yes,
Can
of
a spirit be loving? Can a spirit be love? Like the
course.
spirit of Christmas. Okay, Christmas, that's a loving time. I can kind of see love
Yeah,
into a spirit like the spirit of Christmas. But all I'm trying to get to with this maybe long-winded discussion is, if I am love, I must not be a body. I must be something else. Maybe
well,
it's put into it's into a body.
well,
Like
that's what
you
I
said.
mean. It,
Okay.
your spirit is into your body.
Now I can see the possibility of, in terms of what I am, is love, and what I appear to be put into is something extraneous to what I really am.
I agree.
And I'm going, well, that's kind of okay, because, the spirit of Christmas can be in more than one place at a time, can it?
Sure.
Sherilyn, you're pretty good, but you can only be in one place at a time. Or at least Sherilyn's body can only be in one place at a time. So all I'm saying is that when the Course says, I believe rightly, that I am love, it takes me out of the realm of the physical in terms of definitions of what I am. So I am not a body. I am something that could conceivably be made of some non-material thing called love. That's my speech on it.
How about sentence 5, Jim? A pure mind knows the truth, and this is its strength. So it sounds like the mind and the heart are pretty much the same thing.
Yes, and these are descriptions of things that are really one. I mean, I don't know. I'm getting off here tonight. Tell me a little more, Joan, or anyone else, about what you're saying here on 5. A pure mind knows. I'm sorry, where were you reading?
Yes, that's it. Sentence 5.
A pure mind knows the truth, and this is its strength. I didn't see the word heart there. That's what's throwing me. And we're going to
The
start
heart is in the sentence before, sentence 4. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall say God. A pure mind knows the truth, and this is its strength. So,
and
they're
that
not
is refers
different.
to yet the sentence before that. But I would just wrap things up and offer to you that we're not talking about a location or anything like that, the mind versus the heart or any of that. It just says, I am a non-material substance called love. It's the same that as everything else is made from, including the galaxies and the stars and the universe. It's all made from something called love, and it is so friggin' powerful. It just manifests with all kind of stuff. I'm made out of that. What's God supposedly made of?
Same thing.
Sing.
I'm in pretty good company now, right?
Yes.
And
We
it's
are.
quite a juxtaposition from a filthy, miserable sinner to an
A
expression of
of
the
love.
highest thing there is, if we put it in direction. So I'm feeling pretty good now, whereas before I was feeling like terrible. a victim, right? So
I
provide
guess, but you,
an answer to that question. There's a comment. Who's talking?
me again, everybody else is very quiet. And I'm just stepping here and get in trouble. Now I lost my train of thought. You just said that you were,
I went from a victim to the
Oh.
greatest thing possible.
what I was gonna say is you are what you think. If you choose to be a victim, you can be a victim, or you can choose to be otherwise. You can choose to be a spirit.
Yeah, and the substantive difference, though, is that one of those is true and one isn't. Yes?
I don't know. You've got to live with whatever it is, either the spirit or the body or both. You can't make them go away, one or the other.
One of the nice things, though, about truth that you can count on is that it's always true. You can imagine whatever you want, but the fail safe in truth is that it's eternal. So if I choose to be something other than love, I have that right according to free will, right, Dee?
Yes.
Yep.
But because I choose it doesn't make it true. It just shows how powerful I am and how my free will can create or make up whatever it wants because it's free. The problem is what I make has consequences. Who in their right mind would like the consequences of victimization? In their right mind, I said.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So a lot of the work, as we know of A Course in Miracles, is to help raise us from wrong-mindedness
Exactly.
to right-mindedness so we can make right-minded choices. Yes?
Yes.
Good way to close out tonight.
Mhm.
Yes.
And do you see how, I guess it's my fault, we only did 2 more paragraphs?
Nothing wrong with it.
All right, well, I'm loving it too. So, hey, this is our pace, is it not?
Mhm.
And
It's a
we're
You're
great
having fun, aren't you?
yes, I am. And so, with that said, I'll just ask if you have any final comments or anything tonight. Okay. Did you have a reasonably good time that you might be willing to compensate here for? Yeah. All right. I love it. My work here is done, right?
Okie dokie.
All right.
So listen, I'll get geared up. We'll try it again next week, and I'll look forward to seeing you all then. Thank
Okay.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thank
you,
you,
Jim.
everyone.
Good night,
Thanks.
all.
Goodbye,
Have a
everyone.
blessed week.
you. Namaste. Take care.
Namaste.
Good night.
Namaste.